All right. Well, good morning and welcome to Health Talk here on AM 1270 and 96.5 FM KXBX. As I'm putting my headset on, I slap my nose with, slap myself in the face.
Thought we had a KO there for a minute, you know.
How you doing, Bill? Welcome back.
Doing good. We're on Health Talk, 263-5252, and we're going to be talking about your health and also Easter. Easter's coming up here this weekend.
Do you do anything big for Easter?
Well, I've got half of my great-grandkids, all my great-grandkids and grandkids all coming home. So we dye Easter eggs, and I think they go up to the Rotary thing, too. And
where here at the fairgrounds?
At the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And cook a big ham and eat lots of colored eggs. And the kids, the little ones, pick up the Easter eggs and just slam them in the basket. So they're already cracked for you. So
well, the longevity then probably isn't as good. If you leave them uncracked, a hard-boiled egg can stay for a few
we
days,
actually have plastic eggs, too, that we put
candies in
and money and those kind of things. So looking forward to a nice weekend. Actually, I had went over there this morning, and of course, Northlake Medical Pharmacy sells C's candy year round, and the Beta Sigma Phi, the sorority from Lakeport, uses that as a fundraiser, and they're over in Bruno Shop Smart the rest of the week selling Easter candy as well as regular boxes of candy. They have all the novelty stuff too. So if you haven't bought anything for your Easter baskets yet, that's a good opportunity to go over there and buy your Easter candy. Of course, we still sell it at the pharmacy, but they have all the novelty things that are fun to buy for Easter. So
does Dana do up the house like Christmas? Do you have like 8 different Easter bunnies?
Well, we have. We just got St. Patrick's Day down, and I hope she's going to the storage shed today to put the St. Patrick's Day back and get the Easter up.
Sure.
Because there's not much of a distance between the two holidays.
Not
and
this year.
Being Irish, St. Patrick's Day is a big deal for us. So the green is going away and the pink is coming in, and we'll have it all done so it's new and shiny for all the kiddies. So when they get here Friday afternoon and hopefully leave Sunday. And, well, I didn't really mean that, but I mean,
you did, though.
They have school, and there's lots of things going on.
Actually, Lakeport Elementary has all the next week off, so they may not have school.
Oh, I'm
A
sorry.
lot of schools are taking that week off.
Sorry that happened. I was going to go on spring break down in Texas someplace and renew my youth, but anyway, we're here today. It's a beautiful weekend. I sponsored a bass tournament over the weekend, the Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce team tournament. We had 135 teams go out on Saturday, and about 100 go out on Sunday. The big fish was 10.9 pounds.
Wow. And
had a lot of 7-pounders and 8-pounders and some 10-pounders, and I think that was the biggest fish, 10.9. The good part about this is the fishery is extremely healthy this year. People caught 60 to 100 fish. They just weren't big enough for a tournament. So they struggled making their minimums for the right size of fish, but they said they've never seen shad out, the feeder fish out like they are this year. And of course the bass aren't hungry because they have all that natural food that they're going to be eating. So it should be a good year for the lake. It should be a good year for the bass tournaments. The water is extremely clear for this time of year to have all the overflow that's moving in. It's almost up to 8 feet now. They keep the dam open wide, so I think it's 7.8 this morning. So we're really fortunate to live here, and it looks like we're going to have a great spring and summer. I'm sure there's a little bad weather to come, but if this is all the rain we get, we are extremely fortunate compared to in the past. So go to Bruno Shop Smart, buy your Easter candy and C's candy, and get out and dye the eggs and enjoy the beautiful weather. And if you feel like getting out on the lake, this is a great time to be out there. So But we're going to be talking about your health, and part of the health is what's going on in the world. If you aren't stressed out about the Brussels ISIS bombing yesterday, where 30-some people were killed and over 250 injured, then you're not a human being. I thought it was interesting. 3 of the Mormon missionaries were hurt bad, and one of them had been in the Boston explosion, the Paris explosion, and this explosion. So I guess he's...
How does that happen?
Well, my first thought is, why would he be at all 3 places?
Maybe there's something suspicious going on there. But
I don't think so. But who knows? It seems rare that he was in all 3 places. He's banged up pretty bad on this one, so he's definitely hurt. One of them got burned really bad, and 2nd and 3rd degree burns. So We'll just have to be more careful when we travel, when we're at an event. Be aware that there's an extra sense of security. The president has said this is his number 1 priority. It wasn't a day ago, but today it is.
Day ago, watching baseball in Cuba.
Yeah, he thought that would be. It was more important to not show an interruption of your daily activities than to be involved with the disaster that went on yesterday. Yep. So I'm not going to say any more.
I know. That was pretty telling in itself.
Yes, it was. We're going to have some legal things that occur that are going to deal with medical marijuana. And I know I haven't said much about it recently because it's going to be here. But with marijuana use disorder on the rise, what will that mean for mental health? And it's something we've never thought about or done many studies about before. But because it's medical marijuana is coming before the recreational marijuana, it's something that we need to really kind of focus on. And marijuana dependency affects more than 6 million adults. And this is a drug that everybody says is nothing but medicine. It's not toxic. It can help you. Only 7% of those 6 million seek treatment. And for a person that's been using marijuana as medicine since ancient times, the verdict is still out on whether it's healthy. Even in the light of the drug now being legal for medicinal use in 23 states, 4 of which also permit its recreational use. There's a lot of conflicting evidence regarding the effects that cannabis has, which is the active ingredient, on health, and especially mental health. Many of its consumers believe it's relatively harmless. Scientists are doing a study now from Columbia University and say those opinions may keep those dependent on the drug from seeking treatment. That doesn't mean they shouldn't seek treatment, and a lot of what is happening needs to be treated. And this was in the American Journal of Psychiatry, found that 6 million adults had experienced the marijuana use disorder. That isn't that are using them, but that many that are using them and have found and been diagnosed to have the disorder. Nearly 15 million adults in the United States said they had met the diagnostic criteria for marijuana abuse or dependence at some point in their lives, but only 13% sought professional treatment. And I never knew this, and this is part of the new part of having which should be a controlled substance, and I don't know if it gets legalized. It's the Marinol is a Schedule 3, which is the artificial marijuana. When diagnosing the marijuana use disorder, a physician's required to identify 2 of at least 11 symptoms that assess craving, withdrawal, lack of control, whether the drugs had any negative effects on personal and professional responsibilities within a 12-month period of time. So depending on the number of symptoms, the dependency can be rated as mild, moderate, or severe. And the symptoms of this disorder include cravings, disruption in functioning, and developing withdrawal symptoms such as the inability to sleep or becoming restless, angry, or depressed within a week of stopping heavy use. So there's an increasing number of American adults do not perceive marijuana use as harmful. While some can use marijuana without harms, other users do experience negative consequences, which can include mental and physical problems and impaired functioning. These researchers actually reviewed data from more than 36,000 adults who participated in this survey on alcohol and related conditions, and they found that marijuana dependence is nearly twice as common among men than women. And young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 are much more likely to abuse marijuana than people 45 and older. And people with lower income levels have had the highest risk for developing this disorder. Well, I can see why somebody over 45, unless you have no energy at all, you by the time you're 50 years old, you start to slow down, and unless you're a pharmacist, and then you just keep going. But it makes you lethargic in many cases, and you just don't care whether you get up and go to work or not. And I've had this involved in my family through the years, and know about some consistent behavior that's led to further addiction. So marijuana use disorder was strongly and consistently associated with other substances and mental disorders, suggesting that despite the softening of attitudes towards the drug and its increased use, persons with cannabis or marijuana use disorder continue to be very vulnerable to other common mental disorders. And that's what they wrote in this study. They also found that the disorder is linked to other substance use disorders, confirming results from a previous survey that was done, as well as behavioral problems and disability. With more states now legalizing marijuana, and you will see a much bigger prevalence in this county than you've ever seen, because there will be permits issued for medicinal marijuana, and it will be out in the open. With so much uncertainty surrounding the drug, many people are concerned about its health effects, and there's studies that have shown the drug may benefit some of those suffering from mental health disorders like stress, anxiety, PTSD. Others have suggested that it's linked to cognitive decline. That means the ability to perform daily functions, and psychosis, a serious mental disorder that's marked by impaired thinking and emotions. I have a relative in my family that lives in another state that smokes marijuana every day and has lost jobs. He's an extremely good professional in the home industry, does excellent work, has lost jobs because he couldn't give up the use of marijuana. And we feel that more public education about the dangers associated with marijuana use is imperative, especially critical since we're learning more about the public beliefs that marijuana use is harmless. All you need to do is to go to a Board of Supervisors meeting sometimes when they're debating marijuana use in Lake County, and you will see a whole line of people up there saying how valuable it is to them. Some of them bathe in it. Some of them use the oil. Some legitimate people use it as a pain deferrer. But studies have shown that the drug may benefit some of those people suffering from some of those conditions, and while more research is needed to examine marijuana's long-term impact on mental health, the use disorder is a serious issue that can be disabling and disrupting if it isn't treated. So the study highlights that need to educate the public and professionals and policymakers about the seriousness of cannabis use disorder, and the disorder among individuals who cannot reduce the use of marijuana on their own, despite substantial harm to themselves and others. This is not unlike alcohol. Alcohol is not considered a drug. It's considered a drink for entertainment purposes, and it's been. They tried prohibition and taking it off the market. That resulted in more and more of it being available, which is similar to what's happening with marijuana. My objection is the people that are selling it are not experts in other medications. If they're experts in the production of marijuana and the trimming of the buds and what's making it more concentrated and what specific area this bud is better for than this bud, I'll give them that. But when it comes to the reactions with medications that people are taking, they are not experts in that. And as we can't have a pharmacy technician who has taken several hours worth of education in pharmacy speak to a patient about the side effects or the possible side effects of a medication that they're taking on prescription, we're letting people with a high school education or less, and some people with a college education, but not pharmacists, sell that medication, sell that product, and tell them it's completely safe for them to take with their regimen of over 8 different medications, which is what the typical senior is taking.
Hey, Bill, I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Just because we've seen, like you said, there are 4 states now that have legalized recreational use of marijuana, and the people that I hear talk about pro-marijuana in the county and in the state think that California is going to be one of the next ones. I think California almost passed it a few years ago, and then it'll be one of the next ones. And if that happens, the state of the medical marijuana industry, does it then become a more streamlined industry where a position of a pharmacist such as yourself then becomes involved in it because it then becomes more regulated by the state and through the state boards of health and that kind of a thing?
If they don't classify it as a drug, which to date they haven't, it will not be in our field of expertise. And that's what should happen. I mean, it should be considered a drug, and it should be dispensed by a pharmacy. And I get this from marijuana users all the time. No, you just want to dispense marijuana. You want to make all the profit off of it. Excuse me. I could care less whether I dispense marijuana or not. What I care about is other people dispensing it that put other people in danger because of the other medication they're on. So,
but is any of the talk that you've heard, because you know Mike Thompson in Congress, and are any of the congressional people or the leaders of the state in this discussion talking about if the voters vote it to become a legal whatever, do then the government step in and say, okay, now we're going to regulate it?
Well, they have that option, Paul, to do that. I don't see that on the table. If it
I
does,
think that's a mistake then if they don't.
If it does go on the table, you will see big pharmaceutical companies getting involved so they can make their share of it. You'll see insurance companies getting involved, pharmacy benefit managers getting involved. I think pharmaceutical production and distribution is one of the most egregious errors or mistakes that's made in this country today. The fact that they're allowed to profit at the expense of really sick people, and that's happening in the states that have legalized recreational marijuana now. Those people are paying a huge amount for, because let's face it, that it's a revenue source generated by marijuana that allows the state and the county and the city to profit off of control. And by control, I mean permits, what the regulations are under Prop N. And in order for them to be able to profit, they have to tax it or charge for the permits. One of the ways the state of Washington is doing it, it's a 25% increase in price. That's called a tax. And so a lot of the mom and pop operations around here that were doing it illegally and making $100,000 or $200,000 a year are going to be out of the business because they can't afford what it costs to be ethical when it comes to that. I'll be 74 years old in May. I'm so glad I'm on the down road because I wouldn't want to be dealing with this on a perpetual basis because I think you're going to have people that are addicted that aren't going to admit they're addicted, and then they're going to sue because nobody told them that this could be addicted. It was just to be for pain. It was just to make them feel better. I have a doctor in another part of the county that is switching everybody from alcohol to marijuana for PTSD, and he truly believes that it's the most it's the best type of thing for treating veterans and those kind of people. And I'm not saying alcohol is the answer, but I'm not saying putting everybody on marijuana is the answer either. It's something that society is going to have to deal with. Congress is going to have to deal with it. Nobody wants to be the bad guy here. Lake County has become one of the best dope growing areas in the country, not just not just this state, but Northern California is a great area for these people to be in, and they're buying up property like you can't believe. Now, we can tax them or charge them so much that they can't afford to do it here, which is can be part of the plan, and then it doesn't become a revenue source for us. So I think we have to be careful about how we're doing it, but I think it has to be managed and controlled. When we come back, we're going to talk about the growing danger of mixing prescription drugs and supplements. As our aging population continues to increase, we as healthcare providers and also family members have an added responsibility to take care of them. Hi, my name's Bill Kearney, pharmacist and owner of Northlake Medical Pharmacies in Lakeport. Our senior population brings us new issues as they continue to age. Our bodies change as we age, and they need a pharmacy that cares about their care. I had a lady come into our pharmacy the other day and ask if we were still a locally owned pharmacy. She was tired of the lack of compassion at the big chain pharmacy she was dealing with. When you become our customer, you will see our goal is to get to know our customer. We believe personalized attention combined with competitive prices are what people are looking for. So when you come into our pharmacies and our employees call you by name, don't be surprised, but feel how important you are to us. That's why our family-owned pharmacy has continued to exist the past 36 years in Lakeport. Northlake Medical Pharmacies with 2 locations to serve you, on Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital and outside the Bruno Shop Smart in Lakeport.
Tooth decay can happen at any age. The crowns of your teeth are covered with a hard tissue called enamel, which protects your teeth from decay-causing acids produced by bacteria. Beneath the gums, the roots of your teeth are covered with a softer tissue called cementum. If exposed, the cementum is more susceptible to decay and more difficult to treat than decay of the enamel. As you get older, your gums may recede, exposing the cementum. This may be due to periodontal disease, plaque buildup, trauma, or heredity. Also, old dental restorations may begin to weaken and create crevices that allow bacteria to accumulate, leading to decay. Brush twice a day, floss once a day, and schedule regular dental checkups to help keep your teeth healthy for a lifetime. For the ADA Dental Minute, I'm Dr. Maria Lopez-Howell. For more information, visit our website at ada.org.
You served your country. Now, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to serve you. If you're a veteran in crisis or know a veteran who is, help is available. Call the Veterans Crisis Line today at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. or chat online at www.veteranscrisisline.net. It's your call.
We live in the age of mobile devices. Cell phones, tablets, digital cameras, laptop computers, and 1,000 others. They help us get where we're going. They keep us in touch and informed. They help us work and play. And they all use rechargeable batteries, millions upon millions of them. But these batteries aren't just rechargeable, they're recyclable. Together, individuals and businesses have recycled over 70 million pounds of batteries and cell phones. A network of over 50,000 free drop-off locations across North America makes the process easy and convenient, no matter where you live. Recycling these batteries keeps them out of community landfills and also preserves their materials for use in new products. We all enjoy the freedom that mobile technology gives us. Let's accept the responsibility to pass that freedom on. Find out how recycling works, how it helps, and how you can answer the call to recycle. Visit calltorecycle.org.
And we're back.
We are back.
He is back.
We were going to be talking about the growing danger of mixing prescription drugs and supplements, kind of along the same line of what we were just talking about with marijuana. There's a growing number of adults that are combining multiple prescriptions and over-the-counter medications and supplements in a way that could lead to serious side effects, according to a new study. And I was talking about the amount of medications that people taking. The number of older adults taking 5 or more medications or supplements rose last year to 67.1%. The patients don't tell the doctors about the non-prescription drugs they're taking. They don't tell their pharmacists about the non-prescription drugs they're taking. And more medications or supplements rose from 53.4 to 67.1. So a lot of these prescriptions, for example, warfarin, which is a blood thinner, combining it with a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory or sometimes a antidepressant, increases the risk of bleeding for certain patients. The number of adults taking at least one prescription medication or dietary supplement rose between 2005 and 2011, while over-the-counter medications became less prevalent. They use a database of reported predicted drug interactions to determine whether the 20 most prescription drugs and supplements used by their participants were predicted to cause an adverse reaction when taken together. Now, here's the rub on this. We know if you're getting all your prescriptions through us, we know the prescription medications you're taking. If you're buying your supplements at Costco or the grocery store or the local gas station, the Tower Mart, we don't know what those things are. Even if you buy them at another pharmacy, we don't know. And when they were going through this, they found 16 combination of prescription medications and over-the-counter drugs and supplements that were predicted to increase the risk of adverse reactions. The most common one was actually bleeding. The number of adults taking one of those combinations also increased during the study period from 8.4 to 15.1%. So we're trying to improve access to essential prescription medications like statins that could prevent heart disease and improve survival, but we're not prioritizing enough how safe these combinations would be. So another thing is fish oil. When people are taking some lipid, fat, high cholesterol things, the fish oil sometimes is causing the bleeding to occur. The most common prescription meds were Zocor, which is a cholesterol-lowering medication, and lisinopril and hydrochlorothiazide, all of which become really common during the study period. And then in the supplement category, people were taking fish oil. There was a sharp increase of the use of vitamin D and vitamin E. And this didn't come as a real surprise because in addition to many new medicines entering the market, more and more drugs are becoming available, and that might not just be a generic equivalent. It might be a type of breathing apparatus or something similar. They keep changing the medications to something that would require you to get a new brand name prescription instead of generic. There are cardiovascular benefits from taking a lot of these things that you can buy. For example, you can buy insulin over the counter. Many people seem to be picking up omega-3s after they fill a prescription for a medication such as warfarin. And actually, and that's Coumadin, that actually increases the risk of heart disease by combining the two. They said that warfarin and omega-3 is one of the combinations that the researchers found was associated with an increased risk of bleeding, and the incidence of combining them rose from 0.1% to 0.8% in the last 6 years. So what do you do? Because lots of your cardiologists will even say to take fish oils. How do you reduce the risk of combining these medications? They suspect one of the reasons for the decline in over-the-counter medications in that period of time is that many of them, such as allergy medications, became more tightly regulated, and patients had to ask pharmacists for them. And those are the ones that contained pseudoephedrine or Sudafed. That goes to show that when you regulate meds, there are restrictions on over-the-counter medications or dietary supplements. The people who benefit from the over-the-counter medications are probably still getting them because their doctors are writing their prescriptions or their pharmacists are giving them the access. Here's an example. I just had a femur surgery, and I'm in my 3rd month, and I'm still in a lot of pain. They've been stepping up my physical therapy because they want this pain to go away, and unfortunately, it has increased the pain. So last night, I'm in this 8 out of 10 pain condition, and I can't get the pain to stop. And I have some old Vicodin sitting there, and I have some Percocet sitting there, and I don't want to take those drugs because I'm on the air today, and I'm in the pharmacy consulting all day today when I'm not here, and so I need to be alert. So I took 2 aspirin instead. Now, I already take Celebrex, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory for the inflammation and swelling in my knee and my leg, which the reason you take it is to help it be not as toxic to the gastrointestinal system, meaning it could cause your intestinal system or your stomach to have a bleed because it thins the lining of the stomach, the mucosa. So guess what makes it even worse? Aspirin. So I take 2 aspirin last night rather than take the narcotic, and it worked. So now I've increased my risk of bleeding, and I knew exactly what I was doing at the time, and I know that I can't do that every night, but I know that it was better for me than taking nothing or taking the narcotic. Changes have to be made in the terms of policy and practice with physicians. The guidelines that advise doctors on various medications should contain more comprehensive lists of potential drug interactions. One of those is adding marijuana to those lists of kinds of medications. One of the best ways to make sure patients are combining medications in a safe way would be to look at their entire healthcare team and talk to them. How many times on this show have I asked you to bring in your medications? I said, at no cost to you, you bring in every medicine that you're putting in your mouth, including over-the-counter, and let me go through all of these and find out why you're taking them, and if you're taking duplications, why, and if your volume has increased on those medications since a certain time, why is that? And you would just be amazed at how many errors that we find every day on orders from physicians. So, and it's not specifically them making the mistakes. It happens at the office level. So many patients don't tell their doctors about their non-prescription drugs they're taking. Researchers have analyzed the national survey data of adults of all ages from 2012 and found that 25% of them did not tell their doctors they were taking a supplement or an herb. The most common reasons for non-disclosure was that the physicians didn't ask and the patient didn't think it was important. So the message we really need to get out to you and to your doctor is we need to be more proactive about asking you about things going on in your lives and the different therapies you're using. And there's really a lesson in there for the patients that it's useful for doctors to know which therapies you're taking, even if they're things that your doctor didn't prescribe. And that happens many times when you have multiple conditions and we're treating you for hypertension, we're treating you for diabetes, we're treating you for obesity, many different diagnoses for many different states of illness for you, and all those medications have to combine with each other without it having a risk that you're not aware of. I don't know if you're aware, Paul, but about 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was actually longer than that, 2009, Canada came up with labeling requirement for children's cough syrups. And they said kids don't need cough syrups anymore. It's being overprescribed.
I remember that.
About 18% of our children still receive cough and cold medications despite label warnings advising against their use in children under age 6. A new study found that the introduction of Health Canada's 2009 labeling requirements, there's been a small decrease in over-the-counter cough and cold medications, down from 22% before the change. But this study was published in the Canadian Journal of Public Health, and the research included approximately 3,500 children from 2008 to 2011, measuring cough and cold medication use before and after the mandated labeling. We found that a number of young children continue to receive over-the-counter cough and cold medications, even with the evidence of harm. Public health advisories from governmental agencies and mandated labeling requirements for manufacturers said, in addition, evidence suggests these medications are not effective in young children with no real benefit and documented risk. Stronger measures may be needed to curtail their use. It's very difficult for me to tell a patient, as parents, that this child does not need a cough syrup when they're hacking and hacking and hacking. Sometimes we tell them just to take plain guaifenesin or guaifenesin and dextromethorphan together and cut the dosage in half on what it says, or a quarter, depending on the age and the weight of the patient. So the goal they're trying to reach is not give any of them cough syrups because they're not effective. And I am not sure that doesn't follow through with patients that are adults also. I tell people the active ingredient that really stops the cough in a cough syrup, if they have it included, is the narcotic. So if it's Robitussin with codeine or Phenergan expectorant with codeine, it's the codeine that's the active ingredient. So many people can take the tablet of codeine, not kids, but adults can, and it will have the same benefit as taking a cough syrup and not taste so bad. I was talking to, I had a board call this morning with my board of directors at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they were talking about drug companies suing their pharmacy benefit managers. And that is coming up with Anthem, which discovered what it said were $3 billion in overcharges by Express Scripts. and they filed a lawsuit Monday against Express Scripts for damages. And what's happening is they're telling the patient that the cost is such and such, and the cost isn't. They're reimbursing the pharmacy or pharmacy provider less money, and they're reimbursing the insurance company less money. That's the larger insurer so far to file suit against the largest PBM, and it's a testimony to the complexity that exists in the market. If I try to tell somebody, Paul, about pharmacy benefit managers and insurance companies and healthcare providers and how these all intertwine together and how unfair and illegal it is, it's almost impossible to tell the tale. It would be, it would seem like a lie because it's so complicated. It isn't a lie, it's the truth, and our reimbursements get fewer and fewer and fewer because of these agreements with pharmacy benefit managers. So the largest insurer to file the lawsuit against the largest PBM, it's a statement that Express Scripts spokesman Brian Henry said the suit is without merit. We don't know if it's we know it happens all the time. We know when we see our reconciliation that we don't make 50 cents on this prescription exchange, which when it says we do. And Express Scripts is huge. It's the largest PBM group in the country. Its relationship with Anthem is strong, and as they said, they've consistently acted in good faith and in accordance with terms of their agreement with Anthem. In their deals with the drug makers, they agree to favor the high-cost drugs on the PBM's formularies and agree they won't place quantity limits or prior authorization programs on the drugs, even though doing so would help health plans save money and make medical sense. The audits and contracts are ongoing, and the discrepancies are becoming wider and wider. Generic drugs get lower rebates because they cost less, and while the brand name drugs can command rebates of as high as 40%, a buying group for small pharmacies can't afford that, and they're suing Catamaran for unfair business practices, which requires more transparency. We just have a law going through the legislature asking for transparency in PBMs. 34 Republicans have signed it. 6 Democrats have. Why they don't want transparency to go to insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers is because they're taking a bigger part of the pie, and they don't want to lose that. So I just went online this morning to see if my Senator Mike Thompson, had okayed this Transparency Act, and I don't know why any lawmaker wouldn't unless they're in cahoots with a drug company or an insurance company, which is highly illegal. So at a House hearing on drug prices last month, Buddy Carter, who's a pharmacist and also a Georgia Republican, said we have to have transparency in this PBM world. So there's going to be probably more regulations, which we don't need. But those who audit PBM contracts for a living say we have to have more teeth in this contract. What really gets us going is when PBMs sell their clients on programs that increase costs by encouraging brands so that the PBM can collect the rebates. Many clients do not know the cost implications when they sign on for these programs. So a few companies or other plan sponsors, such as unions, contract with auditors. They don't drill down into the complicated details of their formularies, and they don't want to. Last week, this group actually realized that a group of union funds had agreed to require a step therapy program that required patients to take brand name drugs before generics to get guaranteed rebates. That is not something that should be protocol. If you'll remember last week, I was talking about my wife has a knee that needs to be replaced. She has bone on bone. She has a torn meniscus. She has a popliteal cyst. She has Shark's, I can't remember, tooth syndrome, which Marie Shark tooth syndrome, which is a back condition. Lots of things going on besides Raynaud's disease and neuropathy. The physician told her she needed the knee replaced. That's the bad news, or the good news, actually. The bad news is that you can't have that knee replaced because you're on Medicare until you go through a month of therapy at bone on bone. You go through having a steroid shot. You go through Synvisc therapy for 3 months. And if that doesn't see any results, you can go ahead and have surgery and have that knee replaced. So actually, the system is putting her in 90 days of pain at a minimum in order for her to qualify to get a knee replaced, which is not going to get any better. And they don't assume it well, and they're positive that it won't because there's no cartilage there. Managing high blood pressure with diabetes. That's hard to believe, but it's too common that many people have diabetes and also have high blood pressure. And high blood pressure means that you're at a much greater risk of developing cardiovascular disease. So if you have both, the diabetes and high blood pressure, your risk is double that of a non-diabetic person. So the good news is that you can effectively manage your blood pressure to lower your risks. So you really have to commit to that, and that a diabetic person usually has a lower blood pressure target than the average non-diabetic person. So it needs to be 130 over 150. 130 over 80. 150, you wouldn't want that for your systolic. Before you eat food containing high levels of sodium, your body has to work extra hard to cope with that. You need to switch to low-fat or fat-free dairy products. This is going to lower your blood pressure as well as your diabetes, your blood sugar. Seasoning your food with favorable herbs instead of salt. Choosing lean meats, and exercising appropriately. And for your diabetes, you need to be taking ACE inhibitors, which will keep your blood relaxed. That's like lisinopril and some of those things that dilate the blood vessels. Beta blockers, which block the effects of epinephrine to keep your heart beating regularly regardless of the stress. Calcium channel blockers, like verapamil or Procardia. Nifedipine, which can relax your blood vessels and prevent calcium from building up. And water pills, which help you flush the sodium out of your body through your urine. So not everybody's going to need the same medication, although the American Diabetes Association guidelines recommend that all people with diabetes and hypertension, except for pregnant women, take either an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin blocker, which means nothing to you. But those are dilators to help your heart not have to work so hard to get the blood through. Immunizations, a lot of you have been in for Zostafax on Monday and Tuesday. We got it in today, so we can do your herpes or shingles vaccinations for you today. We ran out, and then they ran out, and so it took us 2 or 3 days to get the Zostavax back in. Flu is almost over. We're finally out of flu vaccine, although there are a lot of symptoms going around that could be a problem for you that mimic the flu, even though it isn't. Tdap, or tetanus and pertussis, are something that we just had a gentleman come in that had a nail in his finger, and it was a rusty nail, and he was afraid he'd get tetanus from it. And we gave him a shot, and he's going to be okay. So, and remember, we're delivering out to Kelseyville and the Rivieras now. We'll take that rain ad off the program that says "Be careful, it's raining outside."
We'll probably pass that. Although last week it worked just fine.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to rain at all. And yesterday I didn't expect it to rain, and the day before I didn't expect it to rain. Yeah. And we got some decent rain. Sunday, during the Bass weigh-in, we got some rain, but it wasn't hard. So, but we're still accumulating in the streams, and hopefully coming up with a water level that we can sustain during the summer. Get you out on a boat, Paul, and
absolutely
get you in shape. Are you working out with the ball team now?
Yeah, I do exercises with them, a little stretching routine, and it's just good to be out there and moving around a lot. I don't run with them, but they don't, they run the bases, but we don't do like laps or anything like that.
You could probably pick up a treadmill or something that's at a garage sale. If
I had room in my house for it, I probably would. If I had room.
You can have it outside during the summer.
I could, out on the porch. But then how would I, I'd have to put a TV out there or something. Do you walk on the treadmill and watch TV?
Sometimes I do. I usually just put on a headset and listen to music.
Music would work. Or you could put on a headset and listen to the podcasts.
That's right.
That we have online now for North Lake Medical Pharmacy. If you go to our website at kxbx.com and click on the icon of Bill Kearney and Health Talk, you'll go to his page, and we've got, I guess we probably have about 9 or 10 podcasts up right now. Past shows going all the way back to October of last year.
Really, it really looks good. So if you have a computer, go on KXBX AM and take a look at our website and let us know what you think of it. I'd like to remind you, we're North Lake Medical Pharmacies with 2 locations for you at 5136 Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital. Call us there at 263-6192. And outside the Bruno Shop Smart, 347 Lakeport Boulevard. Give us a call there at 263-1328. And happy Easter, Paul.
You too. And just again with the podcast idea, if you're listening to a show and something that Bill talks about might be interesting to a family member or a friend, you can simply refer them to our website once that show is posted, and they can get all the great information that you get during the show online at any time. And again, it's kxbx.com. And so, happy Easter, and we'll see the Easter Bunny out on Sunday. And
hopping along.
Until then, have yourselves a great day.